Nick, I want to start on the latest on this trip President Biden may be taking to Europe. What's the latest that we're hearing from White House officials about whether this will happen?
Well, I think what you're going to see is the president feels that it is time for him to essentially get out there and make those connections with foreign leaders and put new pressure on Vladimir Putin. I mean, a huge element of President Biden's approach to the Ukraine crisis has essentially been to project unity with European allies. You now have this news that China is drifting closer and closer to Russia. So what President Biden really wants to show is that the U.S., along with the U.K., with France, with Germany, we haven't gotten a list of the countries where he would go, but those countries, as well as the Baltic states that are feeling anxious that Russia may not stop at Ukraine, he really wants to show that the U.S. has their backs and will do everything it can to support the NATO alliance should things even get worse beyond Ukraine.
At this point, what is the status of getting China more involved here and President Xi's willingness to put more pressure on Vladimir Putin?
Well, it all seems to be going in the wrong direction in a lot of ways. We were told today that essentially China has agreed to offer some form of military and economic support to Russia. At least that's the assessment of U.S. officials, and they are letting allies in Europe know that this could be a problem and try to put more pressure on China. So the administration had really hoped that China could be a counterbalance. It could potentially open the door, put pressure on Vladimir Putin to negotiate. If China's doing that, it's doing it very much behind the scenes. But right now, publicly at least, China is firmly in Russia's corner.
Meantime, you have Russia continuing to cut off access to social media across the country. Instagram, just the latest platform to go dark. We're preparing to hear from Ukrainian President Zelenskyy, who will be speaking before U.S. Congress as talks between Russia and Ukraine just seem to sputter today. Any sign of progress? I mean, when do we expect a new round of talks to begin?
Well, I think what you'll see is there will be more talks, but whether or not they achieve anything is going to be the real conundrum. And, that's in part why Vladimir Zelenskyy is going to Congress. Congress has been a great ally of the Ukrainian president. They've put a ton of pressure on the Biden administration to move more quickly on tougher sanctions. And, the big thing that Ukraine wants is more military aid. They've been pushing for that no-fly zone, despite the fact that the administration says that doing that would put them essentially into direct confrontation with Russia. But he really wants to put more pressure on Congress so that Congress, in turn, including Democrats, I mean, this is a bipartisan thing, will put more pressure on Joe Biden, not only to ratchet up sanctions, but potentially give Ukraine more military and other aid.